Nations. Today we are on location. We outside with our property manager extraordinaire, Mr. Roland Charles. He is with PMI JCM Realty, and we are going to talk about a little about his, experience, his journey, as well as he's going to game us on some of these investment opportunities, these properties out here that will help you level up and gain some wealth and some control over your portfolio. Follow me.
Be humble. Be humble. Sit down. Sit down. Be humble. Be humble. Sit down. Sit down. Be humble. Be humble.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another excellent episode of Humble Beginnings, Great Expectations, the show that focuses on entrepreneurs' journey from the bottom to the breakthrough. I'm your host, Jeremy Johnson. I am the owner of a real estate company, 7J Finance, Commercial and Consulting. Today, we're on location with a property manager, none other than Mr. Roland Charles with PMI JCM Realty Group. And we are here to talk to him about his journey. Welcome to the show, my man. You are by far the most prolific property manager that I know in my circles anyway. And I'm just pleased to have you and kind of dissect your brain a little bit, talk a little bit about the profession, the industry, and everything that goes with it. So, let's get right to it. We're on location in one of your properties right now. But before we get into that, you stick with the script, Humble Beginnings. Mm-hmm. What brought you into the space? What before your role as a property manager brought you into the, the commercial real estate realm, working as an actual property manager, helping clients, tenants, so on and so forth?
Yeah, so I actually got my education in real estate investment back in Memphis, right? So originally I'm from Haiti, the island of Hispaniola, the left side, who shared with the Dominican Republic, moved to New York when I was 4 years old. Growing up in New York is a cutthroat environment, dog eat dog world. And during my time there, growing up in Brooklyn, I've always saw properties that I thought would be great investments. But of course, I was too young, didn't have the funds, and couldn't really do anything about it. After a while, graduated from high school, went to Hofstra University, still had that interest in real estate. And I tried to do some investment in Long Island, but the reality is the price points were too expensive. I didn't have the funds to really invest. So what I did first is I got the Carlton Sheets. I don't know if you remember him, but I got the Carlton Sheets program, CDs on how to invest on real estate, no money down, creative financing. Even then it was very difficult because of course, New York, like I said, is dog eat dog, and people weren't really trying to help you. Around 2005, I received a National Science Foundation PhD fellowship to do a PhD at the University of Memphis. That's when I really started to get the education that I need in real estate, because once I moved out to do my PhD at University of Memphis, I said, okay, they'll pay me $30,000 a year just to study, right? I said, well, while I'm doing this, while I have this opportunity, this time, let me take the time to invest in real estate. So I started buying properties out there, and there was a group called MIG, the Memphis Investor Group, and everyone in there were cool. They were nice. I told them where I was from. I told them what I was doing, and they just took me under their wings. They taught me how to invest in real estate. I bought my first investment property out there. Then I bought a quadplex. I bought my personal home. I moved my son and my girlfriend at the time out from New York to live with me out there in Tennessee, and I was just building my portfolio.
So before you move on, it was this group that literally told you that real estate is the arena that you need to invest into?
No, so
where did that inspiration
I already
come from?
felt that real estate was the investment to be into, because everyone needs a place to live. Everyone needs a roof over their head. So like I said, I was trying to do this from the time I was a youngster in Brooklyn. I just didn't have the skills, the resources to do it.
So where did you get that information from? Was it mom? Was it dad? Was it, brothers? Was it siblings? Was that just what you were hearing in your eco-space that gave you the...
Yeah, so I would say my mom is still in Haiti, right? So it wasn't her. Even though oddly enough, she owns a little properties in Haiti that she rents out to people herself. But I didn't grow up with my mom, right? I grew up with my dad. My dad took me from my mom when I was about 2 years old, gave me to my paternal grandmother. He came and got me when I was 4 and brought me to the U.S. I didn't grow up with my mom at all. I didn't meet her like as an adult until about 33 years old, right? And then my pops, he was a hard worker, but he's one of those people who was always outside, right? And so I really got my education from the streets, right? But for me, it was innate. For whatever reason, I always had the sense that real estate and property was a field to be in, which is why I always gravitated towards it. And then once I was old enough and I got enough, I guess, resources and I got around the right people, I started investing in real estate. And that's really what started me on the journey.
Got you. All right. So now you get a few properties under your belt, right? And now you're in the role as a property manager. Tell us a little bit about, the beginning stages of you being in that role.
Well, I didn't actually start off as a property manager. I just started out as an investor owner, right?
Okay.
And I was hiring property managers to do work for me in one capacity or another. As I had these property managers doing work for me, I say, why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing that? Asking about different things. And at some point I was like, you know what? There's a better way to do it. What I found is that a lot of real estate investors, they go for the cookie cutter aspects of real estate and property management, right? And there's a lot of other components that they don't take advantage of, right? I tell people all the time, you can make money on the front end of real estate, or you can make money on the back end with taking advantage of your tax advantages, right? If you look at people like Donald Trump, Robert Kiyosaki, if you look at any investor that has a large portfolio, they leverage the system to get a lot more return on their investment by reducing their expenses, increasing their depreciation, and really getting money on the back end from their property. Most rental property owners don't do that. And I felt that as a property manager, I can add that value to the owners that I work with. And so when I was out in Memphis, after a while, I started managing my own property. It wasn't until I moved to Florida that I started managing properties for other people. I didn't manage properties for anyone other than myself until I moved out to Florida.
I can imagine as an owner of these properties very early that you were, I guess, observing how these property managers that you hired were doing their job. And eventually, maybe you've seen enough to where you knew there was a level of service. Like you knew that there was a standard that needed to be met. And whenever you saw the below the standard, you called it out and you were like, well, hell, eventually I could do this on my own or better than what's being serviced to me. The best way you learn is through, you're doing it yourself, I guess.
Right.
So I guess my question is, what event or what story can you share with us that said, oh no, I need to do this on my own? What previous events shaped you into being a little bit more hands-on in the role?
I don't know that there is one particular story that led me to managing the properties myself. I just felt overall the package of services that property management provided, finding a tenant, placing a tenant, dealing with maintenance issues. I just didn't think that was enough. I always thought that there was another level to it, like helping, for example, one of the things that I do is I help owners reduce their property taxes so they can get a better return on their investment, right? Another thing that I do is I talk to owners about doing tax planning for their investment so that they can have an investment strategy to help reduce their expenses and their overhead while they're building their portfolio, right? Property managers don't bring that to the forefront for rental property owners, and a lot of rental property owners don't have the mindset or the skill set. Most of them are accidental rental property owners. They inherit a property, and so they don't know that all these things are available. And I just thought that a property manager can and should be able to do that, and that's kind of what pushed me to it. So it's not anything that they did wrong per se. It's just other things that I thought that could be added that they weren't willing to do.
I understand. That's a complete value add that you saw that no one else was doing, and you implemented that in your strategy. So, kudos to you, man. That's incredible. We're in one of your properties right now. Tell me a little bit about what we got going on right here.
Yeah, so this property is what we will call a rose that's growing within the concrete. And so we are in Ybor City, and I wouldn't say this is the heart of Ybor City, but it's definitely on the outskirts, and this area is appreciating really fast. When we first bought this property, I think it appraised for $295,000, $300,000. Right now, and that was 2 years ago, right now the value, after repair value for this property is $385,000. And so this whole property was completely disgusting when we got it, right? And right now you see is a complete gut job. All you have is beams going up, and there's a lot of work that needed to be done. And so for this property to maximize the value or the return on investment that we're going to get, we're going to convert it from what it was, which was a 4-2. We're going to convert it into a property,
4-bedroom, 2-bath.
right, a 4-bedroom, 2-bath. We're going to convert it to a 8-bedroom, 8 or 9-bedroom, 2-bath home, and we're going to convert it into a co-living space. One of the things that you'll find, no matter whether in New York, California, or Florida for that matter, is that affordable housing is a serious and challenging issue that we're all trying to help solve. As a member of Habitat for Humanity, we help people, we give people a hand up into getting homes. But before they get to that step, they need a stepping stone, and co-living through pad split is one of the ways to do that. And so by us rehabbing this property and providing the space available for people to rent it out, give them the necessary hand that they need to get to the next level of life. While we're doing that, it's also going to provide tremendous value for the investors, right? And so for this particular property, normally it would rent about from anywhere from $2,500 to $3,000 as a standalone rental. When you rent it out as a co-living space, your top line could range from $8,000 to $10,000, right? So you're talking about going from a revenue of $25,000 to $3,000 to $8,000 to $10,000. So that's double, maybe even triple if you want to look at it, more than what you'll typically make. And your cash flow typically goes from, let's say, an average cash flow for a single family rental in the industry is $100. That's, if you're doing that, you're doing good, right? Which is why most people go into multifamily homes. But this is a way of getting multifamily returns on a single family home. And so you can get a cash flow from anywhere from $2,000 to $4,000 in a property like this when you convert it to co-living.
Now, I know, I've been in the business for a little bit. I know that they consider anything over 4 units a commercial property, right? So here you are taking a single family residence in historic Ybor City into, a multi-unit property. So can you tell us a little bit of the red tape challenges that you
Right.
came across?
Right. So this is a multi-room, not a multi-unit, right? And so multi-units, there's certain facets, certain things that are required in a property for it to be considered a unit. And the codes are different for different counties, but essentially you need a kitchen, you need certain elements for it to be a unit. And it's not going to have that. This is not a unit, right? You're not going to have individual units inside this house. You're going to have single family rooms. So if you think about it, when a fraternity owns a frat house and it has 8-9 rooms and all those fraternity brothers or fraternity sisters live in that house, this is a similar concept, except it's for the open public, right? So it's a very similar thing to that, more so that than the multifamily space, but it's still a way to get multifamily returns on a single family home.
So the zoning rules and regulations are different in that mindset and therefore easier to get it done?
Well, the zoning is the same, right? Because you're not changing this into a multifamily.
Right.
You're adding additional rooms,
Right.
And you can add as many rooms as you want in a house, right? That doesn't change whether it's a single family home or not, right? We're not changing it from a duplex to a quadplex to a sixplex or a hundredplex, right? We're not doing any of that. We're just adding additional rooms within a single family home. So the zoning isn't impacted at all.
The code, housing regulations, do all of those things come into play?
So housing regulations are always in play, but when you work within the pad split framework, everything that we do is within the housing regulations of the particular county and state that we're in. So we don't violate any of those rules. This house right now is permitted, right? And so we have permits to do all the work that we're doing. And so at the end of the day, it's not violating any of those rules. Now, there's some counties and states that may be a little bit more strict than others. They may have concerns about having multiple people in a house that are unrelated. But just like a frat house can have multiple people that are unrelated in the house, this is no different in terms of that concept. And if you can't argue against a frat brother having 10 people in the same house
Sharing a bathroom?
yeah, what's your argument here?
Wow. Well, that's prophetic. We're in one of his pad split investment properties, and we're going to talk a little bit about how we're going to convert this thing and, maximize the profits out of this rental property. But let me ask you a few questions real quick,
Yeah.
Roland. Your discipline emphasizes a Zen mindset and control, right? In a stressful industry and, role and job that you do as a PM. Mm-hmm. Tell us how you came to develop the Zen mindset in such a chaotic industry.
Yeah, and I would say self-control. So I don't want to control anybody else but me. And so as I worked with property management companies and as I did property management myself, I saw the chaotic nature of the industry. And it's always putting out one fire after the other, right? And it's always trying to fix a problem after it already arises. And so my philosophy was like, it doesn't have to be this way, right? And so I want to do property management in a way where I have all the systems and processes in place where when things happen, I just implement a policy or procedure that I already have in place and the issue is resolved. So if I have an issue with a tenant and I need to evict them, I'm not, pulling out my hair. If the tenant doesn't pay their rent, I'm not pulling out my hair. I have systems and processes in place that can easily handle that issue that comes up. When you think about large corporations, right, they have insurance and they have reinsurance, right? So even when you see these large insurance carriers griping about losing money, they have reinsurance. And so they insure their insurance. And so they don't lose any money or any sleep when those things happen. They just implement what they already have in place. And that kind of structure is what I wanted to bring to the property management industry and kind of level it up a bit where you're not just going out trying to pull out fire after fire. You have the infrastructure, the systems, and the policies and the processes in place. So whether you have one property or 100 properties, you can take care of everything as they come up.
I love that, man. And you're just really re-emphasizes everything that we do and just the financial real estate scope of things in that you need to have fail safes in place to protect what you're doing. And, our previous episode with Mr. Ronnie Oates, Brightway Insurance, he is a broker that helps you insure your collateral and your projects to make sure if something does go wrong, you're protected, right? Mm-hmm. So now that I say that, how is, your wisdom and experience knowing the things that can go wrong helped you, improve your tenants and your portfolio and your clients' expectations for a long-term Zen mindset when it comes to their investment properties?
Well, for me, it's about educating the owners and the tenants on what they can and can't do and having the policies in place to ensure that if something does happen that goes outside of the scope that I gave them, that I'm able to handle those issues. And so it's as simple as that. So I am a cybersecurity consultant by trade. I've worked with companies like Pricewaterhouse, HP, FedEx. And so for me, I come from an environment where there's a lot of structure. Not only do you have a lot of structure, but you have a lot of fail safes as well, right? If one system goes down, you can't just leave it that way. You have to make sure you have other backups in place to make sure that you're able to continue to operate. I just imported that knowledge and skills that I had in that other area and brought it into the property management space so that if anything were to occur, we have the fail safe. If something goes wrong on one end, we have the fail safe to take care of on the other.
That's dope. That's dope. Before we get into the property, give the people a little something that they can chew on when it comes to your experience and what most property managers, or I should say landlords, forget when they're budgeting for a project. What's one thing you could give them that they always forget about and kills the budget?
I can give them 100 things. If they forget everything except for the rent amount and their mortgage. Everything else they forget.
They forget.
Literally everything else they forget. And I tell people all the time, when you're buying your property, you make your money when you buy. You have to buy right. I have owners all the time who overpay for properties they live in, properties for other reasons. And then the market rate for that property, let's say, is $2,500. And they said, well, I need $3,000 for this to work for me because my mortgage is $3,000. The market doesn't give a damn that your mortgage is $3,000. The market don't care.
Yeah.
You bought wrong. You're going to have to take a loss. Right? Now, it doesn't always work that way. It doesn't always have to work that way, particularly when you can pivot and use the property in other ways. So let's say, for example, for this particular property, I'm going to convert it into a pad split. The average rent for this particular property is $25,000 to $3,000, which is average within the Tampa area, right? Mm-hmm. by converting into a pad split and getting $8,000 to $10,000 in revenue, you can kind of massage that mistake so it doesn't hurt you in the long run. But the biggest issue that I would say is that they don't calculate in their CapEx. They don't calculate
Capital expenses.
Yeah, they don't calculate the capital expenses. They don't calculate their holding costs. They don't calculate their vacancy rates. They don't calculate their property management fees. They don't take into account any of those additional expenses that come along with the property. The only thing they see is the mortgage payment, the taxes, and the insurance. And that is not all there is to a property. You have a lot more overhead that you have to take into account for. And if you account for those overheads, you'll be paying a lot less than what you would normally pay for a property. So let's say for a single family property, the typically advice that I give to people is whatever the price is, take off 20% off top. After that 20%, then minus the profit that you want, and then minus whatever expenses that you expect for the rehab costs, and then those other components that I mentioned. Usually when you're about to buy a property, regardless of what they're trying to sell it for, when you take the after repair value, you should be paying no more than 30 to 50% of what that property is being offered for. I know that sounds crazy. It sounds crazy, but if you want to make money, that's what it has to be. Either that, or you have to find on the other end, what are you going to do to force appreciation onto the property where after repair value or your cash flow is going to be able to support the amount that you're paying for it. One of those two things has to happen. Either you're going to pay a lot less, or you're going to have a super genius plan on the back end to make a lot more. If you don't do one of those two things, you're going to lose money.
Man, that's invaluable information right there you just broke down. Let's kind of paint the big picture and tell them the story. Let's start with this room right here. This is a 4-bedroom, 5-bedroom, 2-bath, 3-bath investment property that he is converting into a pad split. We're going to start with this room right here. Okay. Tell us a little bit about how this room will be converted and how much are we going to be able to generate from however many rooms you can make out of this room.
So this particular room right here is currently the living room, right? And this home was built probably in the 70s or 80s. And so you have the stairs, you have the loft area right there. And so what we're going to do right here is we're actually going to build a wall all the way from here straight up to the ceiling. We're going to build another wall from here straight up to the ceiling as well. And we're going to close this off and we're going to put a door right here. This room is going to be a standalone bedroom. Average room in the pad split is 80 square feet. This is way beyond that. This is a decent sized room. This room probably went for anywhere from $195 to $215 per week per room.
Okay. You heard that. $215 per week market rent. Okay. Okay.
So this area is going to be kind of like a dining space. We're going to put a table here so people can eat. The kitchen's right over here. We're going to go there in a second. But this is going to be a dining space, a common area that people are going to have to commune. Usually pad splits have at least one small area dining space. They don't have a lot of living room space because living room spaces are typically for families who want to enjoy their family together, since the people in here are going to be not family related, kind of like a fraternity kind of thing. We don't need a big space. And so we're going to have a small little space right here for people with a table and things like that.
All right. Community area. So we got a hallway here.
Yes.
And a bathroom.
Yeah, so this is going to be a common area bathroom. Right now, it's stated to this bedroom, but we're going to make it so that it's accessible to everyone. And it's just going to be a common area bathroom for everyone. But it was redone, remodeled. Surprisingly enough, the bathtub and the tiles are all original. We didn't change anything with that. It was all fine. We just added new shower heads, the toilet, the sink, and those things we changed up, but everything else is the same.
Yeah, everything looks brand new. The floors look lovely too.
Great, thank you.
All right, so we're going to move into this area of the house. This is a big room right here. How many rooms will we be able to get out of this room right here?
Yeah, so this was originally a master in and of itself, right? And it was a closet right here, a big old closet. And there was kind of like a moldy experience happening here. We fixed all that. We've changed the roof. We patched it up. We knocked down the walls and we created a closet space right here. And then so what we're going to actually do here is we're going to close off from here, from this wall all the way up to about here. And then we're going to close it off all the way here. So essentially what's going to happen is we're going to make a room from here to here, right? We're going to close all the way off from here because every room needs at least one window.
Yes.
Because you need an egress.
Gotcha.
So this is going to be one room over here And this is going to be one room over here, and both of them are going to be about 80 square feet, right? So you're going to have a door that's going to turn in this way, and you're going to have a door that turns in this way. And you're going to have two people. One's going to live here, and one's going to live over there.
Got you. Now, how does this person get their closet space? So you're going to build it?
So that person's going to have their closet space, but this person, we're probably going to give them an armoire, some type of shelving, or some type of dresser space for them to have their closet space.
Okay.
And so not every room in the plasma has a standard closet, and sometimes you have different types of furniture to make up for that, like armoire, shelves, and things of that nature.
Okay, got you. Got you. Excellent. And then
But every room's going to have a television, fridge, desk, and a bed.
every room has a fridge?
It's going to have a mini fridge, yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Try to make people as comfortable as possible in each room.
Yeah. Most people only got one fridge in their whole house. All right, so we're moving along.
Yeah.
So that's 2 bedrooms.
That's 2 bedrooms, and that's 3.
Okay, $215 per week for that room.
And for those 2 individually, it's going to be $200 per week per room. This one will probably be like $175 per week per room.
Okay, so about $375 per week.
Somewhere around that, yeah.
Yeah, so right now we about, was that $690
Around there. Around
per week?
Yeah, per week per room.
And that's only 3 rooms so far, right? All right, so moving into another room here. This would be room number 4.
Mm-hmm. And so this room is going to remain as it is. We built it as it is. The only thing that we added this was a closet. I mean, there's a window. There was no window here before. And so we created this window from scratch, but everything else is going to remain the same. We're not going to add any additional rooms to this. It's going to be a standalone. And this room is probably going to rent anywhere between $220 and $250 per week per room.
Oh my goodness. Okay. So right there, that's $810.
Around that.
Yeah. So $810, room number 4. And this is a turnkey room.
Yep.
So $810 per week already we're at. Hope y'all keeping math. Mm-hmm. Moving into this room is huge.
Yeah, so this room was originally a garage, and it was converted into a bedroom before we even bought the place. And so the 2 things we did, we added a window here, we added a window there. We took the hot water heater that was in here, we put it outside to make that closet a standalone closet. And so what we're going to do over here is we're going to put a wall right in between here, in the middle, right here. And then we're going to put a door. We're going to close this off from here all the way up to here. And there's going to be a door right here and a door right here. And so for these 2 right here is going to be about 80 square feet. And we already got it. Like I said, we had an architect come out and draw it out. So it fits. We can have 2 rooms in here.
Wow. So this is room 5 and 6. We're at $910 right now. And we would get an extra how much for this room?
I would say this is probably $175 a piece.
By $175 piece, that's $350. Mm-hmm. So plus $910, that is $1,260 per week so far. We're only on room 6 right now. That's pretty serious. All right, let's count some more money. Where are we going next?
We're going upstairs.
All right.
This right here, we're going to put a wall from here all the way up to here. And of course, I told you already, this is going to be closed up all the way up here.
Okay.
And so we're going to have a door that turns in that way. We put a window we put that window here that's brand new. And so this is going to be 1 bedroom by itself. And so this is probably going to be around $200 per week per room.
My goodness. We're almost at $1,500 per week for room 7 in this pad split. I registered, cha-ching.
And we still got 2 more rooms to go.
We've got 2 more rooms to go. All right, let's keep it moving.
Right. And so this room was a complete shit show when I first got it, right? There was a closet here. The door was actually over here.
Yeah.
We closed this up. We put the door there. We built that closet there. And these 2 windows were already here.
Man.
So we reconfigured this whole room. And then if you can't see it, but there is a chase that takes the AC from where it is to downstairs, right? Because the AC unit is to come down here.
Yeah.
We move that over here to the other side so that we can get the air down below and make this a standalone room functioning properly. So we did quite a bit of work to get this where it needs to be. And this room will probably be between $220 and $250 as well per week, because you have a big closet, standalone room, everything. So they're going to get a good amount for this.
So we're north of $1,700 a week right now. This is room number 8.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so this is the granddaddy.
Okay, this is the master.
Room.
Got it.
There's a granddaddy. And so this has a walk-in closet. It has its ensuite bathroom. And so this room is probably going to rent for like $350 to $400 per week per room.
So we're north of $2,000.
per week
per week.
per room. This is going to be generating $2,000 per week.
$2,000 per week for this 9-room split that was a 5-bedroom, 3-bath, single-family residence. Still a single family, but now we have gross multiplied the earning potential on this property just by using Passwood.
Co-living passively. Yep.
Man, open that up, let the people see how they can get a hold of you.
So I tell people all the time, it's about the highest and best use for a property. Not every property is going to be suited for a pad split. Not every property is going to be suited for Airbnb, and not every property is going to be suited for long-term rentals. So you have to do your analysis up front and get the highest and best use for the home. And then for this particular property, because it's not in the HOA and because of the size and where it's located is in Busch Gardens area, school's not far from it. You have a lot of people who want to live in a place like this because the utilities are covered for you. The internet is covered for you. A lot of those expenses that you normally would pay, you don't have to pay. So even if you're paying, let's say $1,200 a month for this room, you don't have that additional overhead, which you're saving on. And then, you know, a lot of other things are taken care of for you as well, right? And so you get a TV, you just get a lot of amenities that you normally wouldn't get, and then you don't have the additional overhead. So I mean, it's definitely great for someone in transition, someone who just graduated from college, people who want to step up in life but don't want to have to break the bank to do it, and it tackles the affordable housing problem. So it definitely gives you a hand up. And after this, I have a property I'm going to show you that's already passively converted, and you're going to see a 10-bedroom in operation.
I can't wait to see that. One question for you. This is crazy, number one. This is a lot of cash flow for this property. How did the mindset shift for you go from just being a manager to being an operating owner?
Yeah, so like I said, I've always felt that ownership of real estate was a good recession-proof business to be in, right? I'm a cybersecurity consultant by trade, and I think that's a good space to be in as well. But there are 3 areas that I think that you're always going to make money in. One of those is taxes. If you're a tax preparer or you're helping people with that type of matter, you're always going to make money. Yeah, one area is real estate. People always need a place to live, a roof over their head, and cybersecurity, right? Because the way we are in the industry and life and technology and the information age, you know, that's always going to give you a steady income. And so for me, from the time that I felt as if real estate would be a good area to make a good living in or residual income, I thought that ownership would be the way to go. I mean, even when it comes to my children, my son, I tell him, look, you know, whatever business you get into, don't get into it just to be an employee. Get into it to figure out how it works so you can own your home, right? And so I don't care whether it's real estate, whether it's, you know, working at McDonald's, figure out how to buy that McDonald's and make your own, right? Like, it doesn't matter what you're doing. Figure out how you can be your own boss, your own entity, and build your own business, because once you take control of that, it gives you a lot more control of yourself moving forward.
And you got your freedom and your life.
Yeah.
Which is the point of doing anything where you make money. Let me ask you one more question before we move on to the next property. When does self-managing as a property manager become a liability rather than a, you know, benefit? For all those guys out there, I got 10 properties, I do it on my own, yada. How much of a detriment can that be? Up to a certain point, you have to, I assume, automate or implement systems.
If you have the time and you have the energy and you have the wherewithal, you don't need a property manager to do it, right? But it takes a lot of time and a lot of experience and a lot of skill to get to a place where you have everything in place. Even the most seasoned investors, even the most seasoned property managers run into challenges that is difficult for them to overcome. So I think the ignorant tax is what most people have to end up paying.
That's a bar right there. The ignorance tax.
That's what they have to end up paying before they realize that they need help with their properties. And I tell people this all the time. And this is not tax advice at all. For property management services, the commissions that you pay are tax deductible. So why wouldn't you leverage somebody else's knowledge and skills if you're going to get a tax deduction for it anyway? Right? But people who are so focused, oh, I'm saving that 10%. But you know why they're focused on saving that 10%? Because they bought wrong in the first place. They didn't think about the capital expenses. They didn't think about the holding costs. They didn't think about the vacancy rates. They didn't think about their maintenance costs. They didn't think about the rehab costs. And since they overpaid, their budget is tight.
Yeah.
And so because their budget is tight, they say, oh, I got to skim and not pay the property manager, and I need to do it myself. No, you need to buy right. Either you need to buy right, or you get with a property management manager like me, and I'll say, hey, instead of doing it this way, let's do it that way. You make much more money. I have a client out in Orlando. I started managing his property back in probably 2021. When I was managing his property, again, average price for a property is what? $2,500. That's what I said earlier, right? So $2,500 is the average price for a property. That's what his property was renting for in Orlando. He had a tenant. Tenant wasn't terrible, but they weren't always paying on time. And he was always complaining every month, oh, I'm not making enough money. I'm losing money. I'm like, yo, listen, you bought the property for what you bought it for. I can't do nothing about your mortgage. The market is what it is. I can't do nothing about that. But what we can do, we can convert your property to a pad split. He didn't know he was paying the ignorant tax out the wazoo. So I said, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to convert your property into a pad split. And we only converted the property to a 7-room pad split, not even a 9. And then we were able to get that paid for through a program that I have within my property management company, where we can actually predict how much revenue he's going to generate and provide him funding based on that projected revenue even before it starts making it. So we were able to provide him up to $60,000. Not provide him, because we never gave him the money directly. We never give the owners the money directly. But we paid, we paid $60,000 into the project to convert his property into a pad split. Now, it took about 3 years to pay that off. But this past January, I was able to give him a owner draw of $4,000. This is as a teacher. He probably makes $4,000 a month. And I was able to double his income by one pad split, because I took the property that he already had existed and repurposed it for a pad split, highest and best shoes. Now, if he didn't have a property manager, he would have lost his house already.
He would have lost his mind.
He lost his mind, lost his house. He would have lost it all. But now he has double his income coming in. The rehab cost did not come out of his pocket. And now he has that future income forever. The amount of return that he made by hiring me is infinite. And the reason why it's infinite is he paid $0 for the rehab because it was paid on his behalf. The property paid it off on his behalf. And now he's getting the benefit of the $4,000 a month in cash flow.
Get out of here, man. Hey, property managers, landlords, don't stress yourself out. Keep your peace of mind. Adopt the Zen mindset. On to the next property. Let's go. All right. So here we are, part 3 of the Humble Beginnings, Great Expectations with Mr. Property Manager Extraordinaire himself, Mr. Roland Charles, PMI JCM Realty. And I wanted to get into a little bit more personal perspective of your story. We got your book here, the Rental Property Investment Zen Master, that talks a little bit about your philosophy and how you go about the job and the roles of being a property manager and everything that comes with it. So let me ask you, what finally pushed you to put your knowledge into a book?
Putting my information into a book, I think, was just good marketing. Kind of outline, my philosophy on rental properties, and also I wanted to kind of put something together that can get new investors going, something that probably was around when I was coming up but didn't really quite see it or have it in the way that I thought it should be. So I created it myself. And, I used to teach. I love educating people. I'm the president for NARPM, the National Association of Residential Property Managers. And one of the biggest things we do is provide education and support to rental property managers throughout the state of Florida and also nationally as well. And we're the largest rental property, single family residential property management association. And so we pride ourselves in providing education. I think the book was just a great way to do that. Also, I wanted to highlight something that's near and dear to my heart, which is making a generational difference, right? And people talk about generational wealth all the time, but I have a photo of my daughter and me on the back of the book because it's not about me, it's more about her. She's 12 years old, and the generational difference that I make in this world is probably going to be through her. I may not live to see all the greatness that she makes. But, starting where I'm starting today will set the foundation that's going to help her and my son, for that matter, make a generational difference in the future. So that's the reason why I wrote the book. And also, one more thing. I wanted to thank, and you were here when I did my book signing. I wanted to thank and highlight my father, my grandmother, my mother, all the people who kind of helped me along the way. And so that's why I wrote the book.
I love that, man. Personal, a lot of personal experience that you put in the book as well. Most people focus on cash flow when they, look at a property. Why do you also emphasize the tax advantages just as much in the book?
Because that's part of your cash flow. I mean, a lot of people may not know this. Some people may, right? There are deals that fail just because they're not able to get the tax incentives from a city or a county or a state, right? That can make such a huge difference. But at the level that most property owners operate on, right? At the micro level, they do not see that. They don't experience that. And so my goal as a property manager is to say, hey, okay, you're coming in and you may not have this knowledge, but I am going to impart my knowledge into you so that you can have a better chance of succeeding, right? So if you start looking at reducing your property taxes, that's going to help reduce your expenses and increase your cash flow. If you do your tax planning up front, that's going to help reduce your expenses and increase your cash flow. If you're able to look at your capital expenses, your vacancy rates, you look at all those numbers up front and you pay right for the property, that's going to help reduce your expenses and get you a better return on your investment. And so my whole philosophy, my whole goal is to make money on the front end, but also make money on the back end through the tax advantages that are available to you throughout the country.
And to piggyback off of that, how has the definition of success as a property manager evolved from when you began to where you're at now? Because I'm sure in property managers, they just want to be value add and, in the green when it comes to their clients. How is that for you?
Yeah. So for me, success, I think, goes beyond property management. It's about making a generational difference. I would say if I were to wake up tomorrow and I had 1 million properties under management and I was making $10 billion a year, if I wasn't making a generational difference, I would still feel as if I was a monumental failure. And so the definition of a generational difference to me is making a difference in the lives of the people who you care about the most. My children, my family, my people, America, Haiti. Making a difference in all those areas, I think, would mean success to me. Outside of that, I think property management and the work that I do in this space is just a stepping stone to that ultimate goal.
So, great expectations.
Great expectation.
What do you hope that PMI JCM Realty does for the landscape of property management in the future?
PMI, Property Management Inc., is a franchise out of Utah. And I think they call themselves the property management people, right? Yeah. And I buy into that philosophy. I've been with them for 10 years, and they're a great organization to be a part of. Steve Hart, one of the co-owners of PMI and the president, Property Management Inc., the franchise, he is an incredible person. I think as an organization, they've changed the way that the industry is looked at. I think for me as a franchise owner, putting my own little spin on it, putting my little sauce on it, like I said, I want to make a generational difference. And so for me, PMI JCM Realty Group, I want to go beyond property management. I want to make that generational difference. And I'm keep going back to that because that's where my spirit guides me. For me, success is being able to provide safe, affordable housing to people that need it, and that's being done through Pad Split, giving the investors that I work with the opportunity to increase their revenue and their income, informing them and educating them, and imparting my knowledge onto them so they can get a better result, like the owner in Orlando that I took from having a property that was losing money every month with a $2,500 rent roll to now cash flowing $4,000 a month. That's That to me is success. But those are just building blocks to the ultimate goal of that generational difference.
What would you say separates the overwhelmed landlord to the confident ones?
Knowledge, understanding what to do. And even if you don't necessarily have the knowledge and you don't know what to do, you have people out there that can help. Hire someone that is competent in what they do and pay them that 10% so that they can help you do it. But the only way you're going to do that if you buy the property right. If you don't buy the property right, you're not going to have the money to do that. And that's where most people fail. You make your money when you buy. If you don't do that right, you're going to lose every time. It doesn't matter how much you try to make on a property. If you don't buy it right, you're going to lose money.
Let me get you out of here on this one. There's a beginner right now. There's a cat right there right now, or, young lady that's wanting to be ambitious in the space. And, maybe they have a little self-doubt or what have you. What type of advice would you give them on getting started?
Educate yourself. If you have doubt about getting started, educate. I mean, information is so abundant these days. You have YouTube, TikTok. You can go on ChatGPT and they'll give you steps on everything that you need. Not just ChatGPT, Perplexity. So you have more than enough resources. The problem is when you have too much information, you don't know how to parse it out. And sometimes you just need someone there as your guardrails to keep you in frame so that you do not go haywire, right? And so I would say get a mentor, get someone that knows what they're doing, and do a lot of research so that you can have intelligent conversations. First, you need to know what you want. Once you know what you want, you have that target, then you have someone help you get there because they'll point you in the right direction or hold your hands while you move in that direction and get it completed.
Now, you mentioned NARPM. Break that down a little bit for us, because I don't think a lot of people are familiar with that organization.
Yeah, so NARPM stands for the National Association of Residential Property Managers. It was started probably, I would say, in the 70s or 80s, if I had to guess. And the reason why it was started is because there was no organization that focused on single-family residential property management services. Most people or most companies or most associations focus either on sales or the multifamily homes. The most homes you have in this country is probably single family homes, and there was no one focusing on that. And so they started the National Association of Residential Property Managers, and we're the largest single family residential property management association in the world. And I'm the president for the Florida State chapter. I was president for the Tampa chapter for a year, and now I'm president for Florida State. This year we want to do it big. We're going to have our coming out party for Florida State NARPM. One of the things that I found disheartening is the level of respect that NARPM doesn't get for all that it does. You have your NARS out there. You have your STAR, which is the Suncoast Tampa Area Realtors. You have your Bay Area Apartment Association. You have all these large organizations that do great things for the industry. And people know about them, but people don't know about NARPM. And we do a lot of great things for our industry as well. One of the things that we're doing actually on February 12th of this year, we're going down the hill so we can lobby our legislators to put rules and regulations in place to help better our industry. One of the rules that we put in last year that helped our industry a great deal is we changed the law so that we're able to send out notices by email as opposed to having to send it out by snail mail all the time, bringing the industry into the 21st century. We also put a law on the books to help get squatters out of your properties quicker, right? Now, we were in partnership with the Bay Area Association, some other organizations, but that's something that NARPM helped push and get through the legislative bodies in Tallahassee. And so this year, what I really wanted to do, I wanted this to be NARPM's coming out party for Florida State. And to do that, we're going to do it big. We're going to have a conference this year for 2026 that's going to be on a cruise ship. We're actually going to take Royal Caribbean cruise, Utopia of the Seas, September 7th to September 11th. And this is open to everyone. So we're going to open it up for Florida State and the property managers within the state. But we're also going to open it up to real estate agents who are thinking about the property management industry, and we're also opening up to non-owner occupied rental property landlords as well. It's going to be a great event. I have a ton of education that's going to be provided. We're going to have CE courses for those who need their CE courses. We're going to have designation courses. We're going to have classes on AI. We're going to have investors, true investors with thousands of properties under management come talk to the property managers that we work with and tell them how they can get that business. Not just that, property managers don't know that they can ask for a piece of the pie. A lot of investors or a lot of investors are willing to give a seasoned property manager that provides value a percentage of ownership in the properties that they're purchasing, right? And a lot of people don't take advantage of that. And so what I want to do is I want to make sure that both the investor and the property manager know that there is a space for them in NARPM where they can get a lot of value and get a better return on their investment. And so it's a great organization, and I employ anyone who is looking for good education to come and join the NARPM space. I'm going to also talk about a couple of other groups that I'm a part of. There's another group that I'm very close with, that I work with, and this group is called Buy It, Rent It, Profit. Owner Brian Chavez. We partner with the Housing Authority, and we teach classes with the Housing Authority, and that's to educate landlords on Section 8 housing, again, the affordable housing space. We're having a class there on February 24th. From 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. That class is when I go in depth and give people just free information, free knowledge, everything that's in that book on how to manage your property in a way that you get a better return on your investment so that you're not losing money renting properties out, whether you're renting out to a Section 8 tenant or a long-term tenant. That night, we're going to have an event that's going to be at Stewart Title from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. is going to be the $1 million deal pitch. And so what that is a partnership with Suncoast Bank. It's going to be with LMCU, Stewart Title, of course, and a bunch of other organizations. But we want investors or real estate agents to come with deals that are off market. Maybe they'll be on market, but $1 million deals to connect seasoned investors with those $1 million deals. There will be no deal pitch that's less than $1 million. So if you're interested in that, that'll be another great event for you to attend.
What date is that again?
That is February 24th.
February 24th.
Tuesday, February 24th.
Tuesday, February 20th. So it's right around the corner.
Yeah.
Go ahead and drop that. Is there a website or Instagram handle for them?
There are websites and Instagram handles for NARPM. I don't know what they are. So just Google NARPM Tampa and you'll find it, or Florida State NARPM, and you'll find our information, or NARPM DOTH, DOTH, there on the hill. You'll find us there as well. Florida NARPM Conference.com, I believe it is, for the conference information. I'll give you all the details that you can drop in the lower section of the event, so you'll have everything you need. But I don't have all that information on top of my head right now.
All right, my man. Roland Charles, I appreciate your time today, man. This was definitely an enlightening interview. Go out, get the book, Rental Property Investment Zen Master by Mr. Roland Charles with PMI JCM Realty. Be on tune out for new episodes. Humble Beginnings, Great Expectations. Anything else?
Nope.
You sure?